In a final of a Grand Slam with your technique, you win it with your mind and your heart. Here, Coco was superior. I think it was both Sabalenka losing the final and Coco winning it.
So the question is, Sabalenka, how did she lose that match? The only explanation is the mental and the consequence.
Patrick Mouratoglou just pulled back the curtain on Aryna Sabalenka's shocking pattern of Grand Slam finals losses. The legendary coach has finally spoken up, and what he exposed about Sabalenka's mental approach is brutal, honestly. Stay locked in, because this breakdown flips everything we thought we knew about one of tennis's biggest names. Today, we're diving straight into Patrick Mouratoglou's explosive analysis of Aryna Sabalenka's repeated Grand Slam final collapses against two very specific opponents, Coco Gauff and Elena Rybakina. And trust me, what Mouratoglou revealed is not what Sabalenka fans want to hear. But before we jump into it, sound off in the comments. Do you think mental toughness matters more than technique in Grand Slam finals? Alright, let's get into it. Patrick Mouratoglou, one of the most respected coaching minds the sport has ever seen, recently conducted a deep analysis of Sabalenka's Grand Slam final performances, and his conclusions? Nothing short of ruthless. After closely studying her losses to both Coco Gauff and Elena Rybakina, Mouratoglou landed on one crystal-clear takeaway that sent shockwaves through the tennis world. According to the French coach, Sabalenka's defeats in these massive matches had nothing to do with skill, form, or physical readiness. Instead, Mouratoglou identified a disturbing and consistent pattern. Sabalenka repeatedly breaks down mentally when facing younger opponents on the biggest stages of her career. And let's be clear, this isn't about one bad day or one unlucky final. We're talking about a jaw-dropping 5 Grand Slam final losses to these two players in just 2 years. Mouratoglou then made a statement that cut straight to the soul of championship tennis. He stressed that Grand Slam finals are never decided by technique alone. The strokes, the serve, the movement, all of that fades into the background once you step into a major final. So what actually decides the champion? According to Mouratoglou, it's something far deeper, the mind and the heart. And this, he believes, is exactly where Sabalenka comes up painfully short when it matters most. The implications here are huge. Mouratoglou isn't questioning Sabalenka's raw talent or her ability to execute under normal conditions. What he's saying is that when the pressure reaches its absolute peak, when the world is watching and a Grand Slam trophy is right there, Sabalenka doesn't have the mental armor needed to finish the job, especially not against opponents who have already proven they can survive and thrive in those moments better than she can. Let's break down the exact matches Mouratoglou focused on. Starting with the Coco Gauff rivalry, Patrick pointed directly to the US Open final where Sabalenka first faced the rising American star. According to Mouratoglou, Sabalenka walked onto that court already mentally defeated. From the very first serve, she wasn't locked in psychologically, and that mental gap became impossible to overcome. And unfortunately for Sabalenka, the story didn't stop there. Fast forward to last year's French Open final, and the same nightmare played out again. Once more, Sabalenka stood across the net from Coco Gauff, and once again, Mouratoglou says her own mind betrayed her on tennis's biggest stage. Patrick stated that Sabalenka simply couldn't sustain the mental clarity or emotional control needed to compete at that level against Gauff's relentless composure and confidence.
Of the game. Coco's greatest achievement during that match is she stayed composed from the first point to the last one. Didn't show anything. She stayed focused. She was ready to fight whenever there was one little opening.
What makes Mouratoglou's breakdown hit even harder is how sharply he criticized Sabalenka's post-match comments after those losses. After falling to Coco Gauff, Sabalenka made remarks that Mouratoglou saw not as accountability but as excuse-making instead of addressing the real problem. Patrick went as far as to say that by leaning on external factors and technical explanations, Sabalenka was sidestepping an uncomfortable reality, that in those finals, Coco Gauff was simply stronger than her mentally.
But what is interesting, when she makes those comments, I gave her the final, if it was Iga in final, she would have won, It means that she's trying to deny the mental aspect of the game.
What makes Mouratoglou's analysis cut even deeper is how openly he praised Coco Gauff's work ethic and mental toughness in that French Open final. He flat out said he has never seen anyone fight harder on a tennis court than Coco Gauff did in that championship match. In Patrick's view, Gauff displayed a level of mental resilience and competitive fire that is currently unmatched in women's tennis. He went even further, boldly stating that when it comes to this specific trait, the ability to dig deep and grind out wins purely through willpower, Coco Gauff stands alone at the top of the entire WTA Tour. But here's the thing, this mental collapse pattern doesn't stop with Coco Gauff. Mouratoglou pointed out that the same psychological breakdown shows up whenever Sabalenka faces Aryna Rybakina in Grand Slam finals. The Australian Open, in particular, became a textbook example supporting Patrick's theory about Sabalenka's mental fragility. According to his detailed breakdown, Rybakina's win in that Australian Open final wasn't really about cleaner shots or superior tactics. Instead, it was about mental dominance from the very opening moments of the match. Patrick highlighted the first game as the turning point where the match was essentially decided on a psychological level. And this is where it gets really interesting, so listen closely. Mouratoglou explained that once Rybakina secured that opening game, something visibly shifted in Sabalenka's body language and mindset. She didn't just drop a game, she lost her composure completely. From that moment on, according to Patrick, Sabalenka was mentally checked out of the match. She became clearly frustrated, emotionally unraveled, and that mental spiral snowballed into a full collapse that made the final result feel inevitable. And this part is important to understand. Mouratoglou is not saying Rybakina didn't earn that win. What he's stressing is that Sabalenka essentially handed her the match through mental self-destruction. One lost game turned into a mental avalanche that Sabalenka couldn't stop. And that vulnerability right there is what separates her from true champions. Patrick Mouratoglou then hammered home a core truth about championship-level tennis that every aspiring player needs to hear. In Grand Slam finals, emotional control isn't just important, it's everything. The ability to stay composed when your heart is pounding, the crowd is roaring, and one single point can flip the entire match. That's the real difference between champions and incredibly talented players who always come up just short. And according to Patrick, this is exactly where both Coco Gauff and Elena Rybakina have proven themselves superior to Aryna Sabalenka. The numbers back it up. These two young stars have beaten Sabalenka in 5 Grand Slam finals in just 2 years. 5 finals. That's not bad luck. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns don't lie. They tell the truth. What makes this even more eye-opening is that we're talking about younger players who, on paper, should be more vulnerable to nerves and pressure. But Mouratoglou's analysis suggests the complete opposite. Gauff and Rybakina possess something Sabalenka, despite all her power and technical brilliance, hasn't fully developed: the ability to thrive under the most intense pressure professional tennis can offer. Now, perhaps the most controversial part of Mouratoglou's breakdown comes down to how he views Sabalenka's post-match reactions. Patrick suggested that Sabalenka has a habit of not giving her opponents proper credit for beating her. He pointed specifically to her comments about Coco Gauff after the French Open final, saying they came from frustration and an unwillingness to accept a hard truth. And if we're being honest, he might be right. This isn't a one-off situation. After losing the Australian Open final to Rybakina, Sabalenka made similar remarks that followed the same troubling pattern. She focused almost entirely on her own mistakes, her mindset, and her issues, rarely acknowledging that her opponents simply played better on that day. And that reveals something deeper than just sore loss. It points to a deeper inability or refusal to fully confront the mental weakness that keeps showing up in the biggest moments. By constantly shifting blame to technical errors or personal lapses, Sabalenka avoids facing the real reality. Her opponents aren't just beating her physically, they're beating her mentally. She never fully accepts that the player across the net was superior when it mattered most. Instead, she frames these losses as personal failures rather than her opponent's triumphs. And while self-reflection is important, this approach blocks her from fixing the real issue that keeps costing her Grand Slam titles. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.